I'll be demonstrating how to make a garter stitch short row heel. A garter stitch short row heel is short rows and it's all in the knit stitch. The advantage to this is because it is a little bit denser, it's kind of cushy on your heel, and it also is very durable. And the bonus part of it is there are no wraps to pick up. So let's get started. Here I have a little demonstration sock and I'm ready to make the garter stitch short row heel. I have worked across the instep stitches in pattern, and now I am on the second half of my stitches and I'm ready to start the heel. I like to use a counter. It helps keep track of where I am in the patterns. If you have trouble recognizing wraps, the use of a counter will really help. So the first step is to go ahead and knit across the heel stitches, and we're going to knit until we get to the last stitch of this row. While I'm knitting all the way to the end, I'll talk a little bit about the short row, the garter stitch short row heel. It is a lot denser because garter stitch is denser. So the difference between this and a stockinette short row heel is that we do have to work more stitches. If you are familiar with a stockinette short row heel, you know that we generally leave about 10 to 12 unworked stitches. But on a garter stitch short row heel, you have to leave unworked, or your center stitches, about half that amount. So in my demonstration here, I have 33 stitches, so I'm going to leave 5 stitches unworked, and we'll get to that step at the end of the video. So it seems like it's taking forever, but I'm almost to the last stitch, and then we're going to do a wrap and turn. It's done just a bit differently than we do on the stockinette short row heel. So here I am at the last stitch on the first row. I will slip the stitch as if to purl. Then I'm going to take my working yarn and bring it to the front, and then slip that stitch back to my left hand needle. That's all I do. Now I'm ready for row 2, so I'm going to turn my work. You can see that this stitch is not really wrapped per se. It's kind of just loose and hanging there. But what happens is when I go to knit this next stitch, the wrap will be complete. So on row 2, I'm going to knit. It's all knit because it is garter stitch until I get to the last stitch on this row. So here I am on the second row, or wrong side of the heel. Get to the last stitch on that row. I slip as if to purl, bring my working yarn to the front, and then slip that stitch back to the left hand needle, and then turn my work. So now I have one wrap stitch on the right side of the heel and one wrap stitch on the left side of the heel. So this is where my counter comes into play. I'm going to go ahead and give that a click, and that's just showing that I have one wrap stitch on each end, or one pair of wrap stitches. So the next row, now back on the right side, I knit to the stitch before the wrap. So my counter says 1, so I will get to the other end and I'll be able to see that there's one wrap. So here I am at the end of the row. Here's my one wrap stitch that I have, as my counter says 1. Now I'm going to go ahead and wrap the stitch before it. So slip as if to purl, bring my working yarn to the front, slip that back to the left hand needle, and then turn my work. Now I'm just going to go ahead and knit until I get to one stitch before the wrap on this side. So on the wrong side here I have knit to one stitch before my wrap. I will slip as if to purl, working yarn to the front, slip that stitch back to the left hand needle and turn. So now I'm going to use my counter again. Click. Now I have 2 wraps on each end, or 2 pairs of knits. 2 pairs of wraps, excuse me. So what we are going to do is continue in this fashion until we have 5 center unworked stitches, and that means I will have 14 wraps on each side, or 14 pairs of wraps. Here I am finished working toward the middle. Some people might call that decreasing, but our stitch count remains the same. I have 14 pairs, or 14 on each side, wraps, and in the center here I have 5 stitches that have not been wrapped, or 5 unworked stitches, and I end after a wrong side row. Now it's time for part 2.